This is going to be a de-escalatory conversation. That's not an escalatory conversation.
At the end of the week, Washington empties out fast. Lawmakers, staffers, they're all heading home. But not before they stop here.
All right, hello and welcome back to the Punchbowl News Townhouse for another episode of Flyout Day, Jay. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving recess, carbo loaded, and are ready for the end of the year sprint on Capitol Hill.
No carbo loading for me. December is already crazy, and I'm like, oh, holy Lord, I feel like I need to sleep for a month after this week. Tuesday was a big election that Republicans won in Tennessee. Matt Van Epps beat Afton Ben in a district that Donald Trump won by 22. Van Epps won by less than 10. There's just, we've written about this. There's fears in the party about the midterms now. Republicans are taking mostly nothing away from this, which is not surprising. And who knows? I mean, if there are more retirements this Congress, which MTG, that has been...
That's announced. That's official.
That's official, and that's happened since the last time we did the show. She could, if they're more like that, which we have heard that there will be, they're in big trouble. Mike Johnson's in trouble.
I mean, to complicate things further, right, we've had a very public rift. At the highest level of the House Republican Conference this week, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik engaged in an open war with the Speaker. It's not just his right flank he might be having challenges with. It's actually a member of his leadership.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people, and it's a fight that says a lot about today's House, to be honest with you, and tight margins are tough.
We are going to be joined this morning by very own Elise Stefanik. The New York Congresswoman is going to be talking about why she tore into him so publicly. We're going to be asking about that and a ton more.
A lot more. We're going to ask about defense policy. We're going to ask about politics. She's running for governor of New York, which is a big job, a big race that's going to be a very expensive race, and comes right after Zohran Mamdani won the mayorship of New York. So is it mayorship? I guess it is. Mayorality. He is the mayor of New York.
And after we saw certainly President Donald Trump give Mamdani a big bear hug in the Oval Office. To react to this interview, we have Wall Street Journal Congress reporter Olivia Beavers, who's been covering this feud very publicly, and New York Times chief Washington correspondent Hulse back in the townhouse to share his sharp insights. We're going to get to all that and more after a message from our presenting sponsor, Pharma.
Did you know that America is the only country in the world where half of every dollar spent on brand medicines goes to entities that don't make them? It's true. Learn more at phrma.org/middlemen.
Welcome to Flyout Day and to the Punchbowl News Townhouse. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York. You are the chair of the House Republican leadership and a candidate for governor of New York. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Great to be with you.
Okay, you've had an interesting week. You had a provision in the NDAA that didn't make it in, eventually did make it in. It was a provision that, why don't you just describe the provision and tell us the backstory here on what happened and how it got solved?
Sure. So this is a provision that I've been working on for 8 years. I'm the only remaining Republican member on the House Intelligence Committee that was here during the Schiff impeachment days. So to have that institutional knowledge is very, very important. The issue is this. When James Comey, former FBI director, testified in an open hearing in Congress in 2017 about opening Crossfire Hurricane, he did not follow proper protocol and chose illegally not to notify Congress. This bill closes that loophole. It makes it a statutory requirement, not only for any presidential candidate, but for any federal candidate for office. Congress needs to be notified. And the reason why that's important is it brings accountability, transparency, and ensures that type of weaponization never happens again. We passed that out of the Intel Committee unanimously. It passed out. So worked properly through regular order. And it's a big win. It's a big win. It's included in the defense bill. I signed off on the final language with the speaker last night, and it's going in, and we're going to pass this bill.
You had some sharp words for the speaker because this got knocked out during a discussion at the committee level, the Judiciary Committee level. I'm not sure. They have some jurisdiction because they oversee the FBI, but probably not primary jurisdiction over this matter. What was and the president got involved. Do you think you've said that publicly? And I don't know if the speaker said it. I'm sure the president was quite interested in this provision. Is that an accurate assessment?
This is a very important provision for those of us who care deeply, along with the tens of millions of Americans who care deeply about this illegal weaponization. And it's interesting, many of the House Republicans were not there during this first Trump term. So for those of us that were there, to have this arc and to deliver this result is very significant. And just to tell you a little bit specifically what happened, it passed Dems and Republicans out of House Intel Committee. We worked very closely with Jim Jordan, who supports the provision. Grassley supports the provision. Tom Cotton supports the provision. Raskin opposed it. We had worked with the Speaker's staff at the staff level. It got stripped. And I'm a member where we don't make weekly requests on this is a major issue. This was a major issue. And ultimately it got put back in, and it was a productive conversation with the president and the speaker, but also with the speaker myself.
So you told Olivia Beavers of the Wall Street Journal that the speaker would not have the votes to be speaker if there was a roll call vote today. Your quote was, "I believe that the majority of Republicans would vote for new leadership. It's that widespread." You said it was a productive conversation, but why are Republicans we've reported a bunch on this. Why are they so unhappy with Speaker Johnson?
Well, first of all, I think that, and this for news, this is going to be a de-escalatory conversation. Not an escalatory conversation. And that's what Speaker and I agreed with that when we spoke yesterday. I think there is frustration. And first of all, being a Republican Speaker of the House is one of the most difficult jobs. It goes back. I came in when John Boehner was Speaker of the House, and I was a bright-eyed freshman wondering, what is going on here? So I'm thinking these freshmen are probably saying, what is happening? But there's a long arc. It's also one of the unique challenges is it's the slimmest majority ever. So when I came in, we had the highest majority. This is when we had Boehner, then Paul Ryan, and that majority is just very, very slim. I think in these conversations, and this is what I think was most productive this week, I view those of us who have been at the leadership table before or are currently, you need to provide open advice about how members are feeling. Members want to be productive. They want a floor schedule that is working. They want to address major issues that their constituents care about. And my advice, which I think people share because I know they're talking to the speaker and the entire leadership team, is we have to have a strategic plan. We have to deal with the big issues, such as making sure that we're focusing on lowering healthcare costs, addressing affordability, and then communicate that effectively with the American people. This is Mike Johnson, who I know very well and have worked with very well in the past. My advice to him was, we got to listen to more members and address these member concerns. And I think we will. And he has plans to do that. So it was on the House Richter scale, it wasn't a 10, but it was
damn close to it.
No, it wasn't. Come on. It was lower than that.
Do you want to stay in leadership? Or do you feel like you can be a productive member and you can be behind him in where the conference is right now?
I think that we have a lot of work to do, and we're going to get that work done. And I think busy members who are focused on productive work, that are able to pass, move out of committee, that are busy and are not sort of left with uncertainty.
Time to gripe, too.
Correct. I think that is an important lesson moving forward. But again, this is not unique to this situation. No. These are leadership issues that various Republican speakers have faced over my decade here.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You do kind of, you mentioned Paul Ryan and Boehner. I remember Republicans having a 30-seat majority.
Right, and look at how difficult that was.
Yeah.
So now it's the slimmest ever.
Yeah, pulling a bill off the floor with a 30-seat majority is man, he's really screwed. Now it's Chip Roy gets upset. And by the way, I want to bring that up. And you've spent a lot of time on Ed and Workforce. That's kind of been your home base for a long time. And this NIL NCAA bill, he said, why are we even getting involved here? Some members said, we have all these affordability issues. Why are we getting involved in the NCAA's college athletic stuff?
I think there's a balance between you have to work through regular order. You have to respect that members have worked through the committee in that process for a number of years, while also addressing key issues at the time that the whole conference wants. And I think that is an important lesson, is making sure that we are responding and also have a venue where members are able to share and have buy-in in the establishment of what the strategic plan is going to be. I'm telling you what I said to Speaker Mike Johnson, and I think he's listening. But the good news is my provision got in the bill and we're moving forward. And interesting for me, despite all this chaos, this will be the most productive legislative year. I have this going in. I have major provisions in the defense bill because I'm on the House Armed Services Committee as a senior member. I will move a bill on suspension next week related to a very local issue with the Indian tribe land claim with the state of New York and local counties. And then we'll have a repeal of cashless bail move later this month, coming over the top of Kathy Hochul. So despite all this chaos, it's been an interesting perspective to be able to deliver these legislative results, which are significant.
I want to ask about that because, the speaker obviously kept members home during the shutdown. There's kind of this pent up, how can we walk and chew gum, do things that we need to do in order for our reelection? We've heard so much frustration. A lot of members are considering retiring, as we've reported. Will you serve the remainder of your term?
Yes, I'm going to serve for the remainder of my term. I'm focused on running for governor.
Now, we're going to talk about that.
Yes. And delivering results for New Yorkers. And I think, look, retirements always happen every cycle. And I think particularly going into the holidays when members are home with their families, that's a time when they make assessment. And I think, people retire for different reasons. They either run for higher office, they decide it's the next chapter for their family.
Yep.
And that's the reason why I think you need to keep members productive it's being away from family. That's the toughest part of this job.
Yeah, agreed.
So when you're here, you want to make sure it's productive. And I think they understand because all of us have families.
If you could design, it's crazy. It's only been 1 year of this majority. It feels like it's been like
chapters, ancient history earlier this year.
Oh my God, it feels like it's been forever. So 2026 is coming up and like, what would you do? Like, what do you think they should be focused on? What do you think? Because affordability is like a big topic, right? It's tough it's not the kind of thing where you could just legislate it away, right? You can't just say, make things cheaper around the country, make gas cheaper, make food. What do you do? What does it look like for you?
So first of all, I believe Republicans are the party of affordability. If you look at our top priority that we messaged, and this is when I was conference chair working against what I think the failed affordability policies of the Biden administration, we should own this issue. We do own this issue traditionally for voters. I think better communicating the results in the One Big Beautiful Bill, because yes, it was a tax win bill. It's the largest tax cut ever for New Yorkers when we lifted the SALT cap. But there are other major provisions in that bill. Unleashing energy independence, which will lower energy and utility costs. You have educational provisions. You have small business and manufacturing deduction provisions, really honing in on what those results are. At the same time, we need to address the healthcare price issues and hold Democrats accountable for their failure on this issue. They were the ones that put into law this deadline in terms of the Obamacare subsidies and how you lower healthcare costs, getting that done, being the leader on that issue, which members were grateful that the White House and President Trump wanted to engage on that issue. And there's a sense of urgency from the conference to get that done. I think you have to address the housing issue, utility prices. And I come at this from an interesting perspective in a bluer state. That's the most expensive state in the nation. As we're seeing prices go down for Thanksgiving dinner, for example, in every other state in the country, except New York, where it's increasing. So I think there's a lot of ways you can address it, but being laser focused is very important.
President Trump said he thinks affordability is a scam by Democrats. How do you react to that? Because it seems like it's something that you obviously feel like is penetrating the political conversation with Republicans and Democrats in your home state.
So my assessment, just understanding and working with President Trump over many years, is I think that's in reference to, like, look at New York. It's single party Democrat rule. We have an affordability crisis. The affordability issue, if you look at the major inflation during Joe Biden, that was an agenda. That was what they delivered when Democrats had control. So I think from my perspective, that comment is saying, the affordability crisis is primarily a result of Democrat, and we're looking at lowering those prices. Look at what the price of eggs at the start of this administration in those early weeks, again, ancient history earlier this year, that was in the news every day. They took action. We took action and were able to lower the price of eggs, and making sure that we're triaging that is going to be important.
You mentioned healthcare. This is like the topic of the month, the next 6 months. I mean, you're right. Democrats did put this in law to expire at the end of this year. And probably budget purposes and a whole other host of reasons, but they didn't do it when they had the White House. They didn't extend it, and they probably are coming to regret that. What do you think the Congress should do?
We need to deliver results that will lower healthcare costs. I came in here right as Obamacare was being implemented. It's one of the reasons that I ran for office. My family's small business had our healthcare coverage canceled, and the American people have seen skyrocketing of healthcare costs, skyrocketing of premium, and less high quality care, I would argue, with challenges, particularly in rural regions. There are bipartisan solutions out there. There are bipartisan bills to extend the subsidies over a few year period or 1 year period, a 3 year period. I think we need to engage in those discussions. I think taking out the middlemen in so many of these healthcare decisions that divide the cost from the patient. One of
PBM reform is what you're referring to.
PBM reform, Senator Cassidy's proposals in terms of that 20% markup that the insurers get that takes away from the patient. And I look back to my first term when I was a freshman, I passed the biggest bipartisan fix to Obamacare that was signed into law by President Obama. It was language that I had attached to an approach bill. And we need to look for those types of solutions.
All right. Let's shift gears. I want to talk about your run for governor of New York. The last time a Republican won the governorship was George Pataki, who was elected in 94, 98. That's a very long time ago. What is the pathway?
My bar mitzvah year, to be clear.
Well, a very important year for Jake Sherman, the one and only. What is the pathway for a Republican winning in New York? Is it overperforming in the city, in the suburbs, or is it upstate? What's your pathway to victory?
So it's interesting. Lee Zeldin and I ran for Congress the same year, 2014. Watching his 2022 race was very eye-opening. No one thought that race was going to be close. He came within 6 points.
Yep.
He did very well on Long Island, which continues to move towards the Republican direction. He did better than previous Republicans in New York City, and he did well in upstate New York. 6 points, that was a significant shift. No state moved more to the Republican direction in the presidential than New York State. And if you look at these shifts, these blue states, New York, California, where Democrats control the House, the Senate at the state level, and the governor's mansion, voters are very frustrated and are moving away. So our path is we need to make inroads all across the state. I am an upstate native. Kathy Hochul, despite being from Western New York, she will not out-upstate Elise Stefanik. She is losing upstate every single day. And my definition, which is complicated for New Yorkers, upstate, when I say that, I mean also Western New York. And we're going to have to do well in the Hudson Valley. There are opportunities in the outer boroughs in New York City. If you look at Trump's numbers, where he got 35% in New York City, those are massive numbers. And there are many lower propensity voters that don't traditionally turn out that we will have to turn out. And the problem for Kathy Hochul is multifaceted. She cannot break 50% of registered Democrats. This was why she endorsed Mamdani to try to coalesce the left. You've seen her shift. Just this morning, she said this year she wasn't going to raise taxes. She is raising taxes. Mamdani will extract that. We are the most expensive state in the nation. New Yorkers of all political parties are not going to be okay with raising taxes. We also have the highest utility prices. And she signed into law a bill that would ban natural gas. I mean, that is an insane policy. And when we talk to other colleagues, they can't believe this is happening in New York. That's going to cause a skyrocketing of utility bills.
You talked about Mamdani. A lot of your campaign is predicated on Mamdani, or some of it at least. You've talked a lot about Mamdani. Trump bear hugged him. Obviously, you said you disagree with his assessment on the president. Talk about his comments. I mean, I was gobsmacked. I think you were gobsmacked with the whole thing. Talk about that, and also he makes it, I would assume he makes it the right time for you to run. I would imagine that that's how you see this.
Well, I'm running against Kathy Hochul. The reason why Mamdani is somewhat a part of this race is Kathy Hochul chose to elevate him and propel him. And she was the first New York Democrat official to endorse him in terms of statewide leader. And she leads the New York Democrat Party. And the fact that she has allowed the Democrat socialists to take over the New York Democrat Party, that's a real problem for her. And the issue for New York City electorate is traditionally the Democrat nominee who comes out of the primary gets in the high 60s or 70%. Mamdani barely broke 50%. That means nearly almost a majority of New Yorkers voted against him, a lot of traditional Democrats. So they are deeply concerned. I think the, meeting in the Oval Office, look, President Trump loves to be a host. He understands New Yorkers, and he's a New York politician, even though he lives in Florida and knows all the players in New York. Yep. And I think certainly opposes the defund the police, certainly opposes the tax hiking, but we need to find a way to make sure that we're delivering for New York State. And I share this with President Trump.
Yeah.
All right. Before we let you go, we always end up with a few rapid fire
here we go.
questions. So you're on the hot seat. Are you the only Republican who can win your district?
No, Republicans will win my district. Interesting, my district. No district moved more from Obama to Republicans than my district. We're sort of the bellwether of what's happening, but Republicans will hold my district.
I was in your district in 2014 with Kevin McCarthy. You went during
That's
for a
right.
rally. This seems like, again, ancient history. You're writing a book. We convince you not to, but you're writing a book about the Ivy Leagues. Talk for a second about that.
So the Ivy League hearing was, again, I try to be legislatively, and we are a legislatively very productive office. That was the hearing heard around the world. That made history as the most watched hearing with over 1 billion views in a week. And it set off a complete realignment in higher education. You're seeing that play out with the federal policies of this administration, negotiation with these schools. Writing the book it's a gargantuan task.
Is it done?
Yeah.
You've written it.
It's written. I'm going through sort of the
Congratulations. It is
final
a
copy editing.
huge accomplishment.
So my question to myself was, can I fill a book with this subject matter? And I could. It's that in depth. And the way I approached it was, this is an important book historically to take this moment in time and write about what happened on each of these campuses, to talk about sort of the policy implications. And I break down the book. I talk about kind of behind the scenes of the hearing. I go school by school. Harvard, which I'm an alumna of, have been very critical of. Talk about Penn, talk about Columbia, talk about some of the other schools in the mix, and then schools that got it right and policy solutions with a little bit of memoir layered in.
Yep.
And I think it is a compelling read about a very important issue to the American people.
All right, last question. What are the odds Mike Johnson survives the rest of the congressional session as Speaker?
I think he knows how he needs to work through these issues. So I think people understand the importance of holding this majority. And I think he stays in that position. And I think, there will be buckling down in terms of making sure politically we have a strong strategy going into the midterms.
All right, we will leave it there. Elise Stefanik, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Only in America does half of every dollar spent on brand medicines go to entities that don't make them. While PBMs and 340B hospitals drive up costs, America's biopharmaceutical companies are doing what these middlemen don't. Investing $500 billion in new infrastructure and manufacturing here at home, and helping patients buy medicines directly at lower prices. Tell Washington to end middlemen markups and put American patients first. Visit phrma.org/middlemen.
All right, and we are back to break down that conversation with Wall Street Journal Congress reporter Olivia Beavers and New York Times chief Washington correspondent Carl Hulse. Thank you both so much for joining us today. Jake.
De-escalatory.
Wow, that was the word of the entire interview to me.
I want to defer to Olivia on a lot of this here. Olivia had the interview in which she said, Elise Stefanik said Mike Johnson was a political amateur compared to the political animal that was Kevin McCarthy. I am not going to get into a discussion about whether Kevin McCarthy is or is not a political animal. Olivia, why did she downshift? Let's say, what do you make of it?
I think, well, one, as a reporter, it helps maybe that you caught her in this period of time right before she had a conversation with the president and she had a productive conversation with the speaker. So I seem to have caught her right before, I don't know if my interview where you're reaching out to different leadership offices for comment started to get the ball rolling for them to get the president in the room or what. But I caught her, I think, when she had a very different feeling towards Speaker Johnson in the moment. And now those words are out there.
Could I say one thing here?
Yeah.
She de-escalated. And you and I would both agree, there are a lot of people who share that view.
Yes.
Like, that is not a view.
The novice view?
Not necessarily the novice view. I don't think novice is necessarily the right word. I think there are a lot. And by the way, despite the de-escalatory thing, she did lay out that, like, they need to have a plan, House Republicans. Like, they need to, tighten things up a little.
He had the benefit of them being away during the shutdown where they didn't have to have a plan, right? And this was, to me, the bubbling up, Carl, that you see all the time where members are frustrated and there's literally no leadership of how they're going to address what the strategy should be.
I mean, a couple of things. One, this has been building right since they pulled the plug on her UN nomination. Really stung. Maybe rightfully so.
Totally rightfully so.
But boy, that was some incredible language to use against the Speaker of the House. And you can tone it down all you want, but it's there in black and white now. It was really rough. I do think, I don't know what you guys think about this. I think it's proving to be a mistake to have been that 2 months away. I think it really changed everybody's thinking, and they're all mad and frustrated, and it's bubbling to the top. These things have consequences. But the novice thing, I've talked about this a lot with Johnson. There's a reason that you work your way up in the leadership, right? Because you kind of see how things happen and you learn. And he just didn't have that experience. And
that's right.
I also thought we had a quote where somebody goes, "Oh, this wouldn't happen in a professional setting." I'm like, well, they don't work for Mike Johnson.
Right. People forget that. Like this is, people come to Congress and the leadership is the facilitator. They are not the bosses, right? Like they are navigating the ship through stormy waters, but still, like Elise Stefanik represents 800,000 people in upstate New York, or however many it is. And that's who she has to not cater to, but serve.
Well, you said that we had been hearing some of this frustration for a while, and you'd seen names pop up, some usual suspects. I think what was different was it was a member of leadership. It was a powerful name, and it seemed to open the floodgates a little bit in terms of members feeling like they could express that frustration, or the stories that got the ball rolling. Because we had heard some moments going up and down about Johnson even before reconciliation, where certain people felt like they weren't going to have their voices heard. But in this Congress, with this thin of a majority, the stories probably would have looked a little bit different if he had a 30-person majority and you had like a few people saying the criticisms versus one or two.
I mean, this is not Chip Roy or a Freedom Caucus member, a member of your own leadership. I think the question is, can they put the genie back in the bottle, right? She's de-escalating, but has she opened the floodgates, Carl, to other members feeling like, hey, I have my problem, I can voice it, and I might get what I want.
I think it makes it easier. I mean, this is one of these situations. We actually see it more often in the Senate, where you have to take care of every vote because you don't have that many votes. And now he's going to have to take care of all these people. It's like, wow, I can go out and call him a liar, and maybe they'll have to give me what I want here. I think they just have a really, really tough road ahead for this next year. Everyone's starting to panic a little bit. The Tennessee results, obviously Democrats didn't win, but it was good for them. And then these primaries are going to pass, and that's going to change a lot of people's thinking too. You have to shift. Mike Johnson, he's just got a lot to deal with here.
One irony is when they're out of the House, I feel like they usually calm down. When they're in the House for too long, I feel like that's when the tension starts simmering.
Trying to avoid, right?
So I was wondering when they were coming back, I'm like, oh, are people going to be in a good mood? And all of a sudden we hit censures and...
Brez and I were talking about this. I don't remember who made the point, but like, we should put this on paper at some point, but like write it. But Johnson has tied himself to Trump, like necessarily. We all understand that was probably a necessary political strategy at the beginning. But then his popularity kind of rides with Trump's, right? Like it goes up and down with Trump's. And I think that for Johnson is a little bit of a problem. I do. I think that like being so closely tied to the president has some huge upsides, but it also could have some potential downsides. And this healthcare situation, the Obamacare subsidy thing, like people are rightfully nervous about that. People are rightfully nervous about premium spiking, it impacting polls, it impacting people, number one. And I think this close to an election is just really, really difficult.
But there's no movement to fix it.
Right.
So,
everyone's MIA. They're MIA. And I think, and listen, the truth is, Johnson doesn't believe in extending the subsidies. Scalise doesn't believe in extending the subsidies. And the vast majority of House Republicans don't want to extend the subsidies. So
you're hearing very different messaging from Elise Stefanik, though. I mean, I thought what was interesting too.
Like candidate in the blue state.
She's rough. She has a whole different imperative.
A very different challenge. And I thought it was very fancy footwork how she didn't defend what the president said regarding to Mamdani, but also was trying to distance. I mean, it was that's a pretty tough.
But again,
argument.
Trump kind of cut their legs out on Mamdani. It was, she was definitely going to run against him, and all of a sudden he's buddy there. I thought it was her stuff about affordability is interesting. It's certainly in New York State, but hard to make a governor be the accountable person for that. You know, and you're already seeing that people hold Trump responsible. It's the president's job. And I think they're oddly making the same mistake Biden did, right? You can't tell people that things are good when they're at the store and they know, or the restaurants or their power bill, and they know it's not good. That's really tough.
Yeah.
I think they thought that they would walk the president away from doing that. And then, then it gets back on social media and all of a sudden it's
He can't take it. He cannot take being criticized for this.
Claiming that.
And it's just like that clip of Trump saying affordability is a scam. If it doesn't play in races across the country.
Every single attack ad against Republicans is going to be in there.
And as I said to Stefanik, and I think this is true, like, I understand why this is a tricky issue, right? Like, it's not like with the Obamacare subsidies, you could pass a bill and Obamacare subsidies are extended. It's not like you could pass a bill and everything suddenly becomes more affordable at once. Like, the economy's a complicated machine, right?
It's really
Am I wrong, Carl?
The one bill you could pass maybe is tariffs. Yeah, tariffs. Because, I mean, it has driven up the cost of things.
All right, before we let you go, we have a segment that's not going to fly. Jake Love hates it, but we're sticking with it. So, Carl, what happened this
Mine
week?
not going to fly is actually fly related, so I thought Jake would
Fly fishing.
would like this. Trump wants to take over the renovation of Dulles, which obviously we all want them to get rid of those people movers, but many people are saying, as the saying goes, that he wants to do this so he can get that named for him, the airport, because Nationals named for Reagan, Republicans aren't going to do that, JFK in New York. I think that's not going to fly, that people don't want to fly into Trump International.
Can I take a point of personal privilege here? Dulles is not that bad. It's not.
With the Metro now, it's actually really good.
As a United Flyer, I'm okay with Dulles. It's not always convenient, but whatever. Go ahead.
That shows you that he's really got an ulterior motive.
There you go. All right, Olivia.
Mine's topical. I just think that with Stefanik's comments this week, you started seeing Nancy Mace and Anna Paulina Luna, and it's just sparked this kind of flood of stories about Mike Johnson having these women problems that I don't think is going to be good for him, at least this week.
And remember, and we've all written this and we all know this, but Anna Paulina Luna has a discharge petition to ban stock trading. Mike Johnson told me yesterday he thinks members should be able to own stocks, and he's clearly not on the same page. I am going to go deep into the House floor. The House Republican leadership pulled a bill yesterday to regulate college sports. This is a big deal. I mean, you and I we've had Charlie Baker, the head of the NDAA at events. The power conferences were all behind this. This would put some strictures on the paying of athletes and the out of control situation. You are an ACC alum, so that is a power conference. As somebody who went to George Washington,
Not a power conference.
The A10 is not. We're small but mighty in the A10, but it's a big defeat for the House Republican leadership and for college sports, for the NCAA, who would push this bill very hard.
All right, mine. I think Donald Trump being MIA in Congress is not going to fly. He cannot not be active on these issues for the next 11 months. And if he is, Republicans are going to suffer.
Well, but part of the thing, when he does get involved on healthcare, he wants to go the other way than the Republican leadership. So there is that tension.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. All right. We will let you go. Get back to the Hill. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, the House has just 10 days left in session before lawmakers head home for the holiday season. Jake, we have a wild December in store, to say the least. It's going to be a crazy couple of weeks during which a barely functional Congress and an increasingly volatile president have to tackle a lot of high-stakes priorities.
Yeah, I mean, Obamacare chief among them. We talked about it with Elise Stefanik. We talked about it with Carl and Olivia on set. This is something they need to wrap their heads around. But as you said, and the president, and we didn't really get to talk to the congressman about this because it was tight, but the president's MIA. And Congress kind of feels adrift on this. I mean, there are people doing plans. The speaker says we're building consensus. I mean, all of those things just make for a very kind of loosey-goosey environment in which things don't get done. You need somebody at the wheel.
For a Republican Party that has been in lockstep with what President Donald Trump wants. If you look at the successes of this Congress, it comes at the leadership, at the behest of Trump, and he's not there. So like I personally think we're seeing a void and some challenges. But very exciting, Jake. We are launching a defense policy vertical next week. Perfect timing, I have to say, with the NDAA on the floor.
Yeah, we've hired 2 great reporters, Brianna and Anthony, and we see a humongous opportunity. As you like to say, great story with a lot of audience that's potential for us. Defense is changing. And in a big way, not only at the Pentagon, but in Silicon Valley, here in Washington, it is a big story that we're going to be all over for the next foreseeable future. I don't know how long we're going to be all over it for the next 100 years.
We have a newsy guest already booked, which we will be announcing next week, and great panelists per usual. Jake, I got to run. I got an event with Senator Susan Collins just down the street, but thanks so much, and really appreciate you all watching.
Thank you for tuning in. Have a great week, a great weekend. Tune in next week for another episode of Flyout Day. Have a great everything, everybody. Go GW against William and Mary on Saturday evening. Stay safe, everybody.